second keynote speaker with a little bit of silence, please. We've got a special speaker coming here tonight. I don't want to tell her story, I'll let her tell it to you. Her name is Jessica Rogowicz. And I'm going to lower the mic for Jessica as she comes up here. And if I could have everyone's respect here tonight and for Jessica, and let her talk to you for a moment before we get into the live auction. Thank you very much.
Besides doing my maid of honor speeches. So, 4 years ago, on October 29, 2007, I was carefree. I was getting ready for my 25th birthday and living my life to the fullest, like most 24-year-olds do. I had no idea that I was just 2 days away from learning that I had melanoma, the most deadly type of skin cancer. I was actually diagnosed on Halloween Day of 2007, so it's very ironic and very meaningful for me to be here. On Halloween Day 2007, seeing a ghost would have been a dream come true. Like I said, that was the day that I was diagnosed with melanoma. It was then that I learned that I'm not invincible, unstoppable, or undefeatable. And by looking at me, many of you may find it hard to believe that I'll be turning 29 in a few days, but my appearance is very deceiving because although I don't have wrinkles on my skin and I look very young, I have damaged my skin very badly because of sun exposure and because of tanning beds. I have to hope that the abuse that I inflicted on my skin doesn't cut my life short like melanoma has to so many. Growing up, my family vacationed at the beach every year. And as a parent, you don't think that taking your kids to the beach can affect their health in a negative way. They were just trying to provide the best lifestyle they could for my sister and me. I remember we always used to compare our tans, and I would wear sunscreen at times, but not consistently. And I would spend hours and hours on the beach for a week each year. For at least a week each year. I started developing freckles and more moles throughout the years. And in high school, I would go tanning, but it was usually just for prom or homecoming. There were no such thing as spray tans back then, but I'm sure I wouldn't have even considered that an option. And in 2005, a year after I graduated college, I decided to start tanning on a regular basis. Because after all, I was way too young to get cancer. And even if I did get skin cancer, it wasn't a serious type of cancer. It could just be cured with a little mole removal, and it was all gone. At the salon where I tanned, I remember I paid $20 a month for unlimited tanning, and then I chose to even upgrade my package so I could use the high-power tanning beds too. My parents weren't happy about me going tanning, but can you really convince a girl in her early 20s that something isn't healthy for them? I knew tanning beds weren't necessarily good for you, but I figured I'd stop when I got to the riskier age of getting cancer. I had moles removed throughout the years, mostly for cosmetic reasons. And while I was in college, I remember my dad being diagnosed with basal cell carcinoma. It's only a vague memory to me because he basically had a Band-Aid on his nose for a few days. So I really didn't think much of it. And so that's what I thought skin cancer was. And I was willing to take the risk of wearing a Band-Aid for a few days if it meant having the perfect tan, or in my case, it was always the perfect red skin. And during the summer of 2007, I noticed a dark mole on my back. It was probably smaller than the tip of an eraser, but yet it was darker than the rest of my moles, and that's what stuck out to me. I also had a raised mole on my knee that had been bothering me for a while, and I'm a teacher, and since I had my summers off, I figured, what the heck, I'll go get the one off my knee both of the moles. During this time, I kept going tanning. I had moles removed before, it wasn't a big deal. And I remember him referring me to a plastic surgeon. I just thought he was being cautious. I never really expected these events to lead up to the absolute most traumatic time of my entire life. I had a deeper area removed by my plastic surgeon, and, I kept going tanning. On October 31st, 2007, I was actually in my classroom at the end of the day, and I had a message from my plastic surgeon to call him back. It's obviously never a good sign when your doctor wants you to call him. I remember hearing him say the words, "You have melanoma," and I remember it like it was yesterday. All I kept saying was, okay, okay. Everything he was saying, "I'm referring you to an oncologist," okay. That's all I could say because I was just in a state of shock. Immediately, I called my husband, who I was just dating at the time, and I remember bursting into tears and just being a hysterical mess. But the hardest call I ever had to make was to my parents to tell them that their 24-year-old daughter had melanoma. My parents weren't old and out of touch. Unfortunately, they were right about the dangers of tanning beds. My melanoma was in the early stages and it was slow growing, so I waited an agonizing month for my surgery. I understood that they had to take care of their patients that were more severe than I was. I had a deep incision on my back, so follow me around tonight and you'll see it on my back. I had a drain tube in my back after surgery, and I also had a lymph node removed underneath my arm to see if the cancer had spread. I needed a week off work to recover from surgery. Needless to say, it wasn't just a little mole removal. But things were starting to turn around because my husband proposed to me on December 1st. It was the first time I was out of the house since my surgery. We were going to a Pitt basketball game. We live in Pittsburgh. And I just threw on sweatshirt, sweatpants, threw my hair up in a ponytail. And, it's just like a man to do something special like that when you look like a big mess and you have a drain tube sticking out from underneath your shirt. Luckily, a few days later, I found out that my lymph nodes were clear, so they caught the cancer before it had spread. Finally, my luck was turning around, and I couldn't be happier to tell my family and friends that I was okay. In the following years, I still went on vacations, but if I was on the beach, I was under an umbrella. I used sunscreen, and I would reapply it every few hours. I like to think that I was careful, but yet I didn't stop living my life. And then in June 2007, I was at the beach for a few days, and I noticed a dark mole on the back of my leg. I had a couple moles throughout the years after my first diagnosis that worried me. My oncologist said they were fine, so I just had a bad feeling about this one. I already had my routine checkup scheduled with him. He removed it in the office, and of course I immediately said, "Does it look like melanoma?" And he said, "No, we're just gonna take this off and see, what it comes out to be." I was diagnosed for the second time with melanoma on July 26, 2011. You can see I can recite these dates so easily because they're going to be in my head for the rest of my life. I remember my husband and I were going to the U2 concert that night in Pittsburgh, and I couldn't smile, laugh, or enjoy myself. Just wasn't possible. I felt like I was careful in the years following my first diagnosis, and now it was back again. So I was still paying for the mistakes I had made in the past. This summer I was interested in running a 5K for melanoma, because it obviously had special meaning to me. I contacted Evelyn Martin, she's the founder of Miles Against Melanoma, about having a 5K in Pittsburgh. She sent me the information. I saw that it was going to be a lot of work, but I decided to take on this challenge just a few days before my second diagnosis. After all, if I'm alive and well, then me being lazy is really no excuse. I had to make this event happen to spread awareness. So my summer was officially over after July 26th. I just wanted the sun to go away. I wanted all rainy and gloomy days. Cancer was all I could think about leading up to the days of my surgery. I had a similar procedure done and had 2 lymph nodes removed from my groin. It was extremely, extremely painful. If I was standing, sitting, laying, I was not comfortable. And I pretty much cried for a couple months straight to the point that my husband couldn't take it anymore. Even after I found out the second time that my lymph nodes were clear, I was still crying because it is so hard to know that there's nothing you can do to stop this. I'm not even sure how I had any tears left to cry. Like I said, the lymph nodes came back clear, and I was officially a melanoma survivor ×2. There still isn't a day that goes by that my experience with cancer doesn't run through my head. It's changed my life forever, and they say everything happens for a reason, and through my experience with melanoma, I've met so many strong and amazing people, and my experience has given me a drive to educate others about self-examining their skin, regular dermatology checkups, avoiding tanning devices, and safe sun practices. Many times, with the proper precautions, melanoma can be preventable. Organizing the Miles Against Melanoma 5K is my way of dealing with the emotional pain I have since being diagnosed with cancer. It's made me be very selective with what I complain about, and I hate to compliment melanoma in any manner, but it's made me a better person. It's made me very thankful for my family, friends, and my health. So it's very ironic that I'm here today because I was diagnosed on Halloween Day, and it's a complete honor for me to be here speaking to all of you. I remember reading Glenna's story in Cosmo in 2009, and I found an instant connection to her because I didn't know anyone else my age that was going through what I went through. Glenna was exactly 1 month older than me. Her birthday is October 2nd and mine's November 2nd of the same year. While reading her story, it made me realize that I wasn't the only one. And now I'm standing with all of you today to honor Glenna, those who have passed, and those who are currently battling melanoma. And I wish Glenna was here with us to help us spread awareness, but I know she went to heaven as a fighter. We are all here to keep Glenna's memory alive, raise awareness, and do our best to educate others. I'm incredibly, incredibly honored to be here at this event. Even though she's in heaven, her smile, her story, and her battle has touched the lives of many, especially mine. So thank you all very much for having me here. Thank you.
Big round of applause for Jessica. Thank you so much.